To confess
that AM 1400 KVFD.
That's right. I'm the Doctor of Truth. I'm Michael Devine, the Doctor of Truth. And with me here is the Vice President of Truth. That would be Rob Jones, our news and sports director. Let me get you move a little bit to your right there, Rob. You see where you're at in the screen? There?
Yeah. Am I better right here?
Yeah. You're a little better, but it would be better if you moved just a little more to the right, I think.
Okay. Well, I'm going to my right. You want me to go to your right?
No, sir. I want you to go to your right.
Okay.
The way you got your hand pointed.
Okay. Now your awning for your mic is in the picture right in front of my face.
Yeah, and if you move just a little bit more, it probably wouldn't be. That's what I'm trying to get done here. Now we're talking.
All right.
Yeah. Move the microphone a little bit so you look like a professional, which I know you are. Being the Vice President of Truth, after all.
It's a big job.
It's
a lot of responsibility to be the Vice President of Truth, the Physician's Assistant of Truth, the Associate Mayor of Manville, or Mayor Pro Tem of Manville, I guess you could say. A lot of responsibility.
Yeah, but you handle it. I wouldn't give it to you unless I knew you could handle it.
Well,
go ahead and work 7 days and nights while I'm asleep. That's what it usually is.
That's pretty much what's been going on.
I'm going to give you this great title of Vice President of something, or Program Director of this, or Operations Manager of that. That means I get to work an 8-hour day and you get to work yourself to death, or maybe a fourth of the money I get.
That's how the world works.
That's how the world works. Yeah, years ago, there was a bet I think I made with a guy, a friendly bet.
Mm.
I bet him that there was such a thing at General Motors as Vice President in charge of headrests for the passenger seat side. And he laughed and said, I'll take the bet. There was a guy.
I'm sure they were. I mean, you're talking about a union-ran organization there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, there was another vice president for driver's side. I don't know if they still
I bet there was a vice president for Vanity Mirror.
Could have been. I know.
That's the job I want. Like, I didn't get that job.
Anyway, we're broadcasting live from the Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street here in Fort Dodge. You may contact Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters by calling 515-576-6481 or online. Well, I don't have their online address, I guess. I'll have to ask Brian.
Yeah.
For the last time.
I want to get that.
I always depend on Rob for the insight on local sports, especially. We have the two basketball pros coming in tomorrow, Nevin and Randy. They just can't get off the basketball, especially Randy. I think we talked a little bit about that before we went on air. But, I don't even want to talk baseball right now because my Cubs have won 1 out of 12. Nothing I'm going to brag about,
Yeah.
Anyway, Rob Jones, News and Sports Director. And if you have a question for the Doctor of Truth when it comes to sports, your man is Rob Jones here. So 955-1400. So looks like we're still in the softball season. Both senior high girls and St. Edmund girls are doing quite well.
We're not just in it. We're actually getting really into the heat of it now because we're in the playoffs now. So it's win or go home at this point. St. Edmund had a moment last night. They were able to win. St. Edmund softball pulled out a win 4-3 against Arweva. It was one of those games where St. Edmund had their back against the wall. It was back and forth. They trailed going into the 6th inning. They were able to get 2 in the 6th inning, and they were able to score those 2. Really, they got a triple to lead things off in that inning by catcher Casey Krutoff. She scored then on an error, and then they were able to get another runner on, move the runner over with a sac bunt, and then a base hit to get that go-ahead run, and then they were able to close things down there in the 7th. Kaylee Henning got the win in the circle on in relief for Ella Brotney. Both of those pitchers combined for a really nice performance last night. St. Edmund survive and advance, as they say, in the postseason, and that's what they were able to do last night. So they will play now. St. Edmund softball will be at Newell Fonda. That game is tomorrow night. It's a 7 o'clock first pitch, and you can hear that game on Sunny 99.7, our sibling station, and at yourfortdodge.com. Our guy Brian Peters will have the call out at Newell Fonda. It's going to be a tough mountain to climb for St. Edmund. That's what the playoffs is about. You're going to have to beat the best if you're going to advance anyway. And they've got number 1 Newell Fonda tomorrow night. So a big challenge coming up for St. Edmund softball
Newell
tomorrow night.
Fonda is just a little itty bitty place. Newell and Fonda.
And they're really good at everything.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah. Their girls basketball is as good as anybody in the state. Won the state championship again. Their football has been solid in recent years too. Their baseball team has been ranked in the top 10 all year this year. Their softball team is number 1. And Courtney Darrow, who used to be Courtney Vaughn, who played at Fort Dodge Senior High, is the head coach at Newell Fonda softball there. So there's some kind of that tie there as well. And they played Fort Dodge, and they took Fort Dodge. They gave Fort Dodge all they could want for about 5 innings. Fort Dodge ended up beating them 4-1. So Newell Fonda's a real deal. It's going to be a really tough challenge for St. Edmund, but I mean that's the deal in the postseason. You get what you get. You got to go through the best to be there at the end, and that's what it is. So we'll see if St. Edmund's able to pull the upset tomorrow night.
Well, Newell Fonda, we used to depend on real tough old farm kids, especially when it came to football and wrestling. I knew a guy years ago, a little bit older than me in high school, and he wasn't much into sports, but he could run like the wind, and he just loved to hit somebody, sometimes in the mouth, and that's just the way it was. He wasn't a bully or anything, but he was just a rough, tough kid.
Yeah.
And the football coaches came up to him when he was a sophomore, maybe even a junior. I think he was a junior, and said, "We want you to play football for us every Friday night." And he said, "Well, I got to help with the field work, and I got to help with chores after I'm in school." And he said, Coach said, "Don't worry about coming to practice. Just show up for the game." And he said, "Well, I don't know much about the game." And the coach said, "I'm going to show you where to stand. Now, whenever the line starts moving, you find the guy with the ball and chase after him and hit him." And that's what he did. And he just loved it too. He'd knock the blockers out of the way with the forearm. He learned he could do that, and he'd knock them out of the way and find the guy with the ball, and boy, did he hit him hard.
It was a lot more simple back then, too,
It was.
with the way play
Certainly.
calling was and stuff, too.
Yeah.
Where you could kind of do that. Now, you couldn't really do that because the way the formations change, and I mean, people are going to kind of pick up on a guy doesn't know where he's supposed to go in coverage and
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
That's right.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I get what you're saying, because I actually played football with a guy that ended up going to the University of Georgia, was a 2-time All-American offensive lineman there, Kevin Breedlove. Probably would have had a really good NFL career, but it got cut short for injuries. But Breedlove also wrestled. He was a heavyweight wrestler, state champion twice. And the only time that he showed up for wrestling was the days of the meets. He didn't he didn't go to practice. He just showed up for the meets, and nobody could beat him. He went undefeated for 2 years just because he was, that big and that strong and that athletic,
That
6'5",
aggressive
and
too.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to get beat.
6'5", 315 pounds, and could move around too. Like, I mean, that's you're going to be hard to handle. And
I don't know why they even wrestled him. They should have just forfeited and moved on.
so, I mean, I kind of saw that example too, and he was certainly concentrated on playing football, and was a great college player, and really, I think would have been a great NFL player had he not had injuries that kind of cut that short.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that very well could be. Wrestling in Oklahoma, wrestling in Iowa is a big deal.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Penn State, they're all big
Right.
wrestling schools. And they're starting to look at the upper weight wrestlers now as offensive linemen, because they're not afraid to mix it up. They'll get in there and tussle with you right now. And they have to have good balance, because in the upper weight wrestlers, if they get you on your back, if they twist you in a certain way and on your back you go, the match is usually over with when you get those big boys.
Yeah.
So the offensive line coaches are trying to recruit out of the wrestling programs now. Come on and be an offensive lineman for us. We'll get you this scholarship or get you this perk or whatever. But that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. There are a lot of guys like University of Iowa. A lot of their linemen are former high school wrestlers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it makes a lot of sense. And for a lineman, I don't think there's anything you could do in terms of another sport that would benefit you more than to wrestle.
That's right. And they don't. You want to tie those guys up? They're all about tying you up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like leverage, footwork, all
That's
that kind of
all
stuff goes
that.
into that.
All right. Rob Jones is our guest. He's our news and sports director and the vice president of Truth, but he's the doctor of truth when it comes to high school sports. Seriously, he is. So, has the new football schedules out for senior high in Garrigan, is St. Edmunds, or
they are out. The new football schedules are out. Before I talk about that, I do want to mention though, we do have a big weekend coming up of local sports in terms of baseball, softball. I did mention St. Edmunds softball is playing tomorrow night at Noah Fonda, 7 p.m. You can hear the game on 99.7, our sibling station. Also, St. Edmunds baseball is playing Saturday evening at 5 o'clock first pitch. They are taking on Harris Lake Park in the Bishop Garrigan Regional in the playoff opener. St. Edmunds and Harris Lake Park, 5 o'clock first pitch Saturday evening. That game airing on 99.7. Also, Fort Dodge softball is playing Saturday night, 7 o'clock first pitch. They are at home at Harlan Rogers in the regional semifinals. That game, we're going to do something a little different with the format on that game because St. Edmunds baseball is playing at 5 o'clock and Fort Dodge softball is starting at 7 o'clock. So as not to preempt either one or cut away from either one, we're going to put Fort Dodge softball on our sibling station 92.1 on Saturday night, a 7 o'clock first pitch there. So if you normally listen to the Fort Dodge softball game, you normally get that on 99.7, but on Saturday night, 7 o'clock, we're going to have it on 92.1.
All right.
We had to kind of move some things around because we want to get everybody's game in full entirety for the playoffs. And so to do that, we had to kind of use an extra channel there, and that's what we're going to do on Saturday night.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I did want to make sure I mentioned that. I've been trying to get the word out on that throughout the week as much as possible because I know folks will be looking for the game on the radio on Saturday night. Looking forward to that. We don't know who the Dodgers are going to play yet in the softball regional semifinals because they're going to get the winner of tonight's game between Sioux City West and Sioux City North. The winner's going to come here on Saturday night to Rogers Park. So we'll find that out tomorrow. We'll know that then, and we'll see how that plays out. You mentioned the football schedules. They are out for both St. Edmunds and Fort Dodge and also South Central Calhoun, the three teams that we carry on our family of stations here. August the 27th is the opener for all area teams for football. So this year, it's going to be a little different, Mike. There's some changes. There's some things going to look different. Fort Dodge staying in 4A while basically all of their opponents from last year have moved up to 5A. So that changes their district. It's going to change a lot of things about Fort Dodge football, and I think going to even the playing field for them.
I think so, yeah.
In a lot of ways, and so we'll see how they capitalize.
Yeah, our old conference is essentially all the schools in Des Moines except Dowling.
Yeah,
and we could always go up and beat Mason City, but we were always playing Des Moines schools.
Well, and this
Des Moines
past
area
year,
schools.
Yeah, this past year too. They like every team that they played this past year. If I'm not mistaken, was a team that ended up moving up to 5A. So you look at being competitive at that schedule, is something where, okay, well, now all of our opponents have moved up. We should be that much more competitive with this new thing. And I think, it's more of a competitive balance when you take teams that are kind of more each other's size in terms of enrollment and socioeconomic background and all that, because the CIML and the schedule Fort Dodge has played has really been, in the time I've been here, and probably before that, it's been the haves and the have-nots.
Oh, yeah.
The haves being the Waukees, the Ankeneys, the Ankeny Centennials, the Dowlings, people like that, Urbandales. The have-nots being the Fort Dodges, the Mason Cities, the Marshall Towns, people like that, Ames. So I kind of like this new configuration there. And I think it's going to also bud what could be an interesting rivalry going forward between Fort Dodge and Webster City. There's not much of a history there in terms of football, but you've got two towns that are 30 minutes down the road. Just regionally right there makes a lot of sense. Webster City traditionally is very good, was very good this past year. I think that makes a lot of sense. Like where I come from, like when I got here, I was surprised they didn't play each other, because where I come from, if you were 30 minutes down the road from somebody, you played them. I mean, unless they were just like a really small school and you were just a much, much bigger school. But if you were anywhere close, you were going to play them. Anyway.
That's a good point, because Webster City, at least in my day, used to beat the living hell out of most of the people in their high school conference. They were part of the North Central Conference at that time, which includes schools like Clarion, Eagle Grove, and Algona.
Which
And
they still are
Yeah.
in basketball and baseball and all
Right.
that. It's just now we have district football. It's a little different.
We used to have a Big 8 conference that Fort Dodge was
Yep.
part of, and that was Cedar Falls, both Waterloo schools, Marshalltown,
Ames,
Yeah,
Mason City.
those schools, yeah. And it was a very competitive conference. And I think the teams that were to the east of us didn't want Waterloo and Cedar Falls and those people. They didn't want to come to Fort Dodge for some reason. But they were closer actually to some of the other teams in their conference. They wanted to move to the east to Dubuque and that sort of thing, and Iowa City. And I don't know what the conferences look like now, but I hope that we can reshape the old Big 8 conference.
Well, it's
some way.
interesting you say that because they kind of are doing that. Fort Dodge is leaving the CIML after this next year in terms of basketball and baseball too, which that has been announced. And big part of the CIML is leaving with them. So you've got Fort Dodge, Mason City, Marshalltown, and Ames, along with the Des Moines schools, Des Moines City Public Schools, and Ottumwa, that all went together and said, okay, we're going to go and form our own thing. One of the
Ames did.
Yeah, Ames
They're
is in
30
there too.
miles down the road from the Des Moines Metro.
Yeah, but they're leaving the CIML to go with the new league that Fort Dodge is going to be part of, and also their Waterloo West, I believe, one of the Waterloo schools, I think West, has decided that they're going to join the league too. So the league now has 11 teams. I imagine they're going to look for 12th to try to make things even schedule and that kind of thing going forward. So yeah, I mean, they have definitely made a move there, and there's a little bit of a reformation of the old Big 8 when you talk about Waterloo West and you talk about Fort Dodge and Ames and Mason City and Marshalltown, all were in that league. So a little bit of going back to that and leaving the CIML, which for the life of me, didn't understand. I mean, the CIML as a whole had like 19 teams in it. Like, how do you do that? Like, you're in the same conference with people that you like. There's people we never played in the CIML since I've been here.
Since I've been here.
Like, it's hard to even fathom that, because within the CIML you have like 3 different divisions.
Yeah.
Right. And we're in one. And so it was just kind of like, okay, well, that thing got way too big, too fast. And so split it off. And that's kind of what they're doing now with that. And another big change this year will be that St. Edmund football is going to 8-man this year. That's a big difference. Going to be the first time they've done that, I think, in program history. I know it's the first time they've done it in any sort of modern era. And it's the first time for Matt Dillon, who's coached football for 30 plus years, but has never coached 8-man before. So it's going to be interesting with that. I know
I wish St. Edmund wouldn't have done that. They requested to go down.
Right.
But St. Edmunds people tell me they can't get enough kids to go out for football.
Well, that's one of the things. The enrollment's kind of dipped and the participation is dipped. And they just graduated a really big class of seniors that was kind of really important to the success they had this last year and that kind of thing. And it's when you're a school that's small, it's hard to come off of a cycle like that when you've got a what you would call maybe a generational class that's going to be the best class you've had or been the best class you've had in 5-10 years.
You know why that St. Edmunds team was so good last year? Brock Stanek.
Well, I mean, he's really good. I mean,
he's really good.
And I think he's going to be really good in college too. And they had, they had Stanek, but they also had guys like Baker and Sean Flattery and Drew Schaefer. They had a good group of seniors.
I just know Brock's parents, and they're good folks and big supporters of their children. And I think Brock went off to Sioux Falls to play college ball. I think
Minnesota. So St. Thomas of Minnesota is where he's going.
You're right. Sioux Falls. Yeah.
Sioux Falls did offer him, and I think they were in his final group, but he ended up going to St. Thomas, Minnesota, which is interesting because they are making the jump from Division III up to the FCS level of Division One, which would be the same level like UNI and people like that are in. So during his time there, they're going to make that transition. So I think that had something to do with it. That and they had an engineering program, and that's kind of what he wanted to do. And he told me he felt like that was just the best fit with everything involved.
Yeah, that sounds perfectly reasonable. We're running out of time, so I got to ask you, Rob. Rob Jones is our news and sports director at KVFT. I'm bracing for Randy tomorrow, Randy Coleman. What do you think of the decision to allow players to be paid?
Oh, as far as the endorsement deal for college?
Yes.
I don't have any issue with it. For me, I have long since given up on the thought that major college athletics is amateurism anyway. That's never really been something I've ever thought about. At the major college level, I don't think it is. And my thing is, I'm almost always going to back the player, and I'm kind of backing the player in the sense that I've heard and talked to guys that have said, when I was in college, there were times where I couldn't buy dinner, but I walked down the street, see my jersey hanging in, the window of a store selling for $100, and I get nothing out of that. The school's getting a percentage off of that for the licensing.
That's right.
This way, everybody gets a piece, and the school doesn't just get all of it. I mean, we're really kind of being a little bit hypocritical when we're sitting there as administrators at a public university making $200,000 a year and saying that a kid can't get a piece of the jersey that he's responsible for it being sold.
That is so phony. And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, sometime Google NCAA salaries. They have hundreds of people on their payroll making big bucks off college athletics.
Oh yeah,
and the kids aren't getting it.
And the coaches make a lot of money.
Oh, you think? My Hawkeye friends always want to beat the hell out of me, and I'm a Hawkeye fan, but Kirk Ferentz hasn't delivered much of a product over all these years. I know. I mean, he's won a couple of bowls, but I mean, nobody talks about Iowa in the same breath as Alabama or.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to, Mike.
They're not going to.
It doesn't matter who the coach is. I don't think. I do agree that he should win the Big Ten West every once in a while. Like they should be in the Big Ten championship game every once in a while. They should. So I agree there. But I'm one of these guys that I'm pretty real about, knowing who you are. And I think, a guy like Kirk Ferentz has done a pretty good job. Is he overpaid? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Probably is.
You ever been to Alabama?
I've been to Alabama.
That's a pretty rural state.
Yeah, it is, but it is loaded with ball players everywhere.
Is it ever? Well, Florida is loaded with ball players.
And so is Georgia, and you can go from parts of Alabama to Florida in 20 minutes and parts of Georgia to Alabama in 30 minutes. So, yeah.
All right. Rob, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike.
All right. Of course, we're broadcasting live from the Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters studio. Blue Ribbon Pelham Waters is at 612 South 32nd Street in Fort Dodge. You may reach them by calling 576-6481. This is AM 1400 KVFD, the voice of Fort Dodge.
Divine Intervention is online at your Fort Dodge.